Hello and welcome to another lesson from Level Up Mathematics. In today's lesson, we will be exploring multiplying polynomials. In example 1, we'll use an area model to multiply two polynomials together. And in example 2, we'll be using the distributive property. On your practice assignment, you can use either method. All right, let's start with the area model. In example 1a, we have x minus 4 times x plus 2. So in our first polynomial, we have two terms. In our second polynomial, we have two terms. So we want to draw a 2 by 2 rectangle. All right, so let me cut this into 2 rows and 2 columns. Now I'll take my first polynomial, x and negative 4, and put it along the side, and take my second polynomial, x and positive 2, and put it along the top. Now I'm going to multiply this first term, the x, by everything on the top. So I'll multiply x times x, which gives me x squared, then x times 2, which gives me positive 2x. Now we'll take the second term, this negative 4, and multiply it by everything on the top. So negative 4 times x gives me negative 4x, and negative 4 times 2 gives me negative 8. Now before you write your final answer, you want to see if there are any like terms. So what I'm noticing here is I have a negative 4x and a 2x. Those both have an x to the 1 power, so they can be combined. So my final answer, I would write down the x squared, then I would combine the negative 4x and the positive 2x to get negative 2x, and then the minus 8, there's nothing to combine it with, so just write it down. So x minus 4 times x plus 2 is equal to x squared minus 2x minus 8. All right, let's try the next one. We have 2x plus 3 times 3x minus 1. So I've got two terms here and two terms here. So again, I want to create a 2 by 2 area model. So let's cut this into 2 by 2. 2 rows, 2 columns. So I'll take a 2x and a positive 3 will go down the side, and a 3x and a negative 1 will go across the top. So let's start this process again. Take your first term and multiply it by everything on the top. So 2x times 3x gives me 6x squared. 2x times negative 1 would give me negative 2x. Now take your bottom term, which is positive 3, and multiply it by everything on the top. Positive 3 times 3x gives you 9x. Positive 3 times negative 1 gives you negative 3. Now, look for any like terms, and I see I have a 9x and a negative 2x that can be combined. So the 6x squared, nothing to combine it with. 9x plus negative 2x is positive 7x, and then minus 3, nothing to combine it with. So 2x plus 3 times 3x minus 1 is equal to 6x squared plus 7x minus 3. Problem C, x plus 3 times 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. So here we have two terms by three terms. So this time I'm going to want to make a 2 by 3 rectangle. So let's cut this into 3 parts and this into 2 parts. All right, so again, I'll take my smaller binomial, x plus 3, and put it along the side. I'll take my larger polynomial and put it on the top. So 2x squared, negative 4x, and positive 5. Now, just like we did in the other problem, I'm going to take that first term, x, and multiply it by each term on the top. So let's see, I don't know what happened here. This was supposed to be negative 4x. I don't know what happened there. All right, so let's take x times 2x squared. That would give me 2x to the third power. Remember, to multiply like powers, we add the exponents. Then x times negative 4x would give me negative 4x squared. And then x times 5 would give me positive 5x. All right, now I'm going to do the same thing with my bottom term. Positive 3 is going to get multiplied by everything in that top row. So 3 times 2x squared would be 6x squared. 3 times negative 4x would be negative 12x. And 3 times positive 5 would be positive 15. Now we want to identify any like terms. So in this problem, we have a 6x squared and a negative 4x squared that can be combined, but we also have a negative 12x and a 5x that could be combined. So when you write your final answer, there's nothing to combine the 2x cubed by. So just write it down. Then combine 6x squared with negative 4x squared to get positive 2x squared. Now combine the negative 12x with the positive 5x to get negative 7x. And then there's nothing to combine the 15 with. So that's our final answer. All right, now let's say you don't really enjoy the drawing the boxes. It takes too much time. It takes up too much room on your paper. That's fine. We can also use the distributive property to do the same process. So let me show you how that works. In example 2, problem A, it says use the distributive property to find each product. And we have 2x plus 3 times x plus 8. You're going to basically do this the same way. You're going to take your first term and multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis. So I'm taking the 2x and I'm multiplying it by x. And then I'm taking the 2x and multiplying it by the 8. So just like up here, we took that first term and multiplied it by everything in the top row. That's what I'm doing here. Okay. Now I'm going to take the second term, the 3, and I'm going to multiply it by everything in that top row. So 3 times x is 3x. Well, let me write that down. 3 times x, and then 3 times 8. Now we'll simplify that. 2x times x gives me 2x squared. 2x times 8 give me 16x. 3 times x gives me positive 3x, and 3 times 8 gives me positive 24. You just have to be careful here because now you have like terms that need to be combined. So 2x squared, 16x plus 3x gives you 19x, and then plus 24. All right, let's try that process again. In problem B, we have 3x minus 1 times 2x minus 7. So again, I'm going to start with that first term, the 3x, and I want to multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis. So 3x times 2x is 6x squared. 3x times negative 7 is negative 21x. Now you're going to take your second term and multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis. So we have negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x, and negative 1 times negative 7 is positive 7. Now look for any like terms that can be combined before you write your final answer. So 6x squared. Negative 21x minus 2x would be negative 23x, and then positive 7. So same process as the area model. It just takes up a little less room on your paper. All right. Problem C. H squared plus 9h minus 1 times negative 4h plus 3. Now, you can multiply polynomials in any order, but I prefer the smaller polynomial to go first. So I'm going to rewrite this where the negative 4h plus 3 goes first. You do not have to do this. I just like the smaller one to go first. I think it's a little bit easier. Okay. Now, again, just like the area model, you start with that top term, negative 4h, and you're going to multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis. So negative 4h times h squared is negative 4h to the 3 power. Now take negative 4h times 9h, and that would be negative 36h squared. And then negative 4h times negative 1 would be positive 4h. Now I'm going to take the second term, the positive 3, and I'm going to multiply it by everything in that second parenthesis. So 3 times h is positive 3h. 3 times 9h, oh, I'm sorry, 3 times h squared was 3h squared. 3 times 9h is 27h. And then 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. Now I want to identify my like terms. So I have a negative 36h squared and a positive 3h squared. And then I have a positive 4h and a 27h. So when I write my final answer, negative 4h cubed, then I'm going to combine negative 36h squared with positive 3h squared, which would be negative 33h squared. Then 4h plus 27h would be 31h, and then negative 3. All right, problem D. We have 3 over 2p plus 1 times 1 over 2p plus 3. All right, now don't let the fractions bother you, because you can always use your calculator to multiply these and add these if you need to. All right, we're going to work this the same way. We're going to take our first term, 3 over 2p, and I'm going to multiply it times 1 over 2p. So 3 over 2 times 1 over 2. 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. So that would be 3/4 p squared. Now I'm going to take that 3 over 2p and multiply it by 3. So that would be plus 9 over 2p. Again, if you can't do that in your head, please use your calculator to make sure of your answer when you multiply those together. All right. Now I'm going to take my second term, the positive 1, and I'm going to multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis. So 1 times 1 over 2p would be 1 over 2p, and 1 times 3 would be positive 3. Now we have like terms that can be combined. So we have 3 over 4p squared, and then, no, let me write this out here, 9 over 2 plus 1 over 2. These have a common denominator, so that would be 10 over 2, which is the same thing as 5. So this would be plus 5p, and then plus 3. All right, now let's look at some application problems. In example 3, it says write an expression for the area of the rectangle below. So we know from previous grades that area of a rectangle is length times width. And so to find our area, I'm going to multiply I like the smaller polynomial to come first. I'm going to multiply 4a minus 1 times 3a squared minus 2a minus 5. So again, just like last time, I'm going to take this first term and multiply it by everything in the first parenthesis. Now what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try this problem on your own. All right, welcome back. Let's see how you did. 4a times 3a squared was 12a to the 3 power. 4a times negative 2a is negative 8a to the 2 power. And 4a times negative 5 is negative 20a. Now I'm going to take my second term, this negative 1, and I'm going to multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis. So negative 1 times 3a squared is negative 3a squared. Negative 1 times 2a is positive 2a, and negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5. Now I want to identify any like terms that I might have. So negative 8a squared, negative 3a squared, and negative 20a and 2a. So this would be 12a cubed. I'm going to combine the negative 8 with the negative 3 to get negative 11a squared. Then I'll combine negative 20 with positive 2 to get negative 18a, and then plus 5. So there's an expression for the area of this rectangle. All right, example 4. Write an expression for the area of a square that has a length of 2x plus 3. So here's our square. We know that in a square, all the sides are the same. And in this case, our side length is 2x minus 3. So the area of a square is side squared. So we're taking the expression 2x minus 3 and we're squaring it. But 2x minus 3 squared is the same thing as 2x minus 3 times 2x minus 3. So we've learned how to multiply this out. We'll take our first term and multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis. So 2x times 2x gives me 4x squared. 2x times negative 3 gives me negative 6x. Now take my second term, negative 3, and multiply it by everything in the second parenthesis. So negative 3 times 2x would be negative 6x, and negative 3 times negative 3 would give me positive 9. Now, identify any like terms. So my final answer here would be 4x squared minus 12x plus 9. And that concludes today's lesson, multiplying polynomials.